Hey everyone, it's Dr. Robinson. We are going to go over chapter 6, and that's treatment planning and treatment settings. I'm going to be sort of brief with this chapter. Your assignments for this chapter are also going to be brief. I'd like for us to sort of get back on track with our schedule, with me uploading things in a manner that gives you the entire week to work on the assignments, sort of like what we were doing before the hurricane. So that's my goal. So chapter 6, treatment planning and treatment settings, we're going to talk about what treatment planning is and consists of, and then we're going to talk about the different settings or different types of locations or environments that individuals can receive treatment in for addictive use disorders. So that's what we're going to do. Like I said, I'm going to briefly touch on that, mostly talking about the treatment setting, so mostly going into that. Treatment planning, so just sort of jumping into treatment planning, and let me kind of scroll through here. I'm going to try and flip back and forth between my screen and the PowerPoints. I'm still trying to figure out Canvas and how to do this, so I hope this isn't too confusing and that you guys can follow along. So just sort of going along with your the PowerPoints that I've uploaded. Again, here's your objectives here, or the overview. So treatment plans, this is your sort of map, you and your client's map to how you're going to approach their treatment in different phases of time. So usually they're done every 30 days. Of course, that's not fixed, and if you need to adjust a treatment plan at any point, you can. Insurance companies or the agency setting may require a shorter time frame or even a longer time frame for you to submit treatment plans. And your treatment plans are going to include a diagnostic impression, your objectives for your client's goal, you and your client's objectives, mostly your client's goals that you help them come up with, and of course using their words, and objectives and goals that are meaningful for them. And then how you're going to assess and measure these objectives and goals that you and your client have come up with. Again, mostly your client. So you're going to include things like if they have a comorbid mental health issue, you're going to include things like assessments. How are you assessing for that comorbid condition? How are you screening for it? Do they have appointments with a psychiatrist? Is there medication management involved? You're going to include things like how often they see you for counseling. You'll include things that how often they go to group therapy, and then any sort of referrals. Are you referring them out for anything? And so again, this is required for you and your client to sort of have a plan for where you're going and what you're doing, and even where you've been. So you can revisit some of the treatment plans and say, look what we worked on early on and look what we're working on now. That's kind of nice to do with your clients from a historical perspective. But pragmatically, it is there for reimbursement for insurance, reimbursement for any sort of grants or funding that external funding that you may be receiving in your agency setting, and then agency accreditation. If you're working in an agency and you're accredited, which I would hope you wouldn't work in an agency that isn't accredited by whatever accrediting agency that clinics and hospitals are accredited by. There's a couple. You have to submit. You have to have these reports and these treatment plans on every client. They have to be up to date. They have to be current and up to date. So you have to do these. The way that a treatment plan is formatted can vary. Insurance companies may require a specific platform or a specific web-based program that has drop-down menus, and that's how you create your treatment plan. You may work at an agency that says you create your treatment plan however you want, and here's a Word document, and have fun. It's usually the first case, that there is a set protocol for how your treatment plan needs to be formatted and laid out. and you have to follow it. So I'm not going to go into a specific type of treatment plan. We'll go into what needs to be in your treatment plan, but the way the way the treatment plan looks and the way the treatment plan is organized is dependent upon the agency setting or the insurance company that's reimbursing you. I've uploaded a treatment plan that you guys will be using as a template for your final for this class. Your case conceptualization, rather. Your case conceptualization and treatment plan is uploaded to Canvas already, and that's one version of a treatment plan. It is, of course, not the only version, but it's one version of it. So you can look at that, and that's what I'm going to expect you to use for your case conceptualization and treatment plan. So we're going to talk today a lot about ASAM. And ASAM, and I'll pull up the website. So we're going to come here in a little bit, but ASAM is the American Society for Addiction Medicine. You can see this right here. And this agency provides sort of the guiding principles for how we approach addiction treatment. They look at residential settings, treatment settings, and the way we sort of assess the way we treat individuals with addictive use disorders. And so that's sort of the like I said, the guiding principle or the guiding organization that tells us what we need to do. We're going to talk about in a little bit, when we talk about treatment setting, we'll talk about ASAM's criteria for treatment setting and how you place individuals or refer individuals in different treatment settings. So just sort of going through, I want to touch on continuum of care, and what this means is that there's no lapse in treatment for your client. So if you're making any referrals, that they're consistent and they are that your client is not just floundering, that your client isn't just stagnant in, well, what do I do now? What do I do next? That you're constantly on top of the approach and the plan for your client, and that it is seamless. Any sort of transitions or moves or changes, or even sort of the protocol, that your client's aware of it and that it is smooth. We're going to the top of this slide. So client's motivation for change. I think we talked about this in the last chapter, but I want to revisit stages of change. So we're talking about Prochaska and DiClementis stages for change. And of course, we're talking about pre-contemplation, which is you don't have a problem. I don't have a problem. I don't see what the fuss is. Why is everyone bothering me? I have no desire to change. I don't have a problem. There's nothing wrong. Then you move into contemplation, and that's when an individual has the idea that maybe something's wrong. I'm not super ready to change. I really don't think it's all that problematic, but maybe it's a little problematic. And so really the client has in their head that, something's off, or people are even bothering me, and that's what's problematic, about my behaviors. But I'm not super motivated for change. So a lot of denial and ambivalence going on in these two stages. Of course, in pre-contemplation, it's all total denial. And in contemplation, you've got some denial and some ambivalence related to the severity or nature of the problem. And then we move into sort of preparation stage. And that's sort of an interesting phase. That's the stage where your client realizes that there is a problem and I do need to make some changes, but I don't really know how. Maybe I'm not equipped. I don't think I'm equipped with the ability to change. I don't have the steps to change. I don't have the support system to change, but I do think maybe something does need to change. And I'm aware of those consequences. And then moving on from that, sorry, I'm trying to make sure I have all my notes here, is action, the action phase. And action is when your client recognizes that problematic behaviors, I have a problem, consequences associated with my behaviors are so severe, and I am making changes. So here's a plan, and I'm going to start making changes. I'm making changes to my behavior. I am moving in a direction that is different from my behavior and my behavior in the past. And then maintenance phase. And that's obviously when the action plan has been implemented and they're just maintaining it. So these are the things that keep me healthy. These are the things that sustain the change that I've wanted to have. And the tools that I'm utilizing are helping me maintain that. And that can be sobriety, of course. That can be whatever level of sobriety the individual identifies. And what I mean by that is, the change doesn't have to be abstinence. When we talk about AA and 12-step, we'll get into that a little bit more. So I wanted to spend a moment, just like I said, on motivation for change. The next little bullet point here, their goals for treatment. They are their goals for treatment. If you are inserting your goals or what you think their goals should be, we've missed something. So these goals are their goals. However surfacey or insignificant you think they may be, your client isn't there yet. Your client isn't at the point where they're seeing these big, deep goals that they can achieve. They just don't see it, or they don't know how to even get there. So when you're creating treatment plans, remember that you're using their words and that you're going at their pace. So I hope I've touched on treatment planning a little bit. The main thing I want you to know is, of course, we talked about motivation for change, but also that treatment planning is going to look very different depending upon the setting that you work in. Going from very strict and very rigid and very time consuming to minimal amount of paperwork and charting and whatnot. Of course, the things that you need to be mindful of are including objectives and goals that your client comes up with. You can help them, but they need to be their words and their objectives and their goals. Is it measurable? So when you do set an objective and you hope to reach this goal, can you measure the sort of behavior change or objective that you are implementing? Can you measure it? And is it sustainable? Is it something that they can actually do? So is this behavior change within the ability of the client? Can they actually do that? And you can see them here. So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant. Are they actually relating to what your client is there seeing you for, and are they time limited? Remembering that you're going to have to revisit your treatment plan every so often, depending upon your treatment setting, and you're going to have to revisit these objectives and assess them. And they don't have to, there's no, this isn't super linear. So, you can come back to goals, you can continue goals and objectives, but making sure that you're maintaining the speed of your client. So let's jump into real quick the ASAM criteria. And so this is what we use to place clients in treatment settings. Let me pull it up. And so I promised you that we would come back to this website, and here we are. And so there are 6 dimensions, and the 6 dimensions, and you can see here, it's a way of planning your treatment goals, and then of course what level of care they need to be in. So acute intoxication and or withdrawal potential. So that's going to lead you in a direction of you need a facility for the individual that is related to detox. Are you considering going down the sort of list here? Are you considering any physical complications? Do they need to be hospitalized? Do they need a physical? Have they had a physical? Are there any health issues related to your client that's going to impede or prohibit them being successful, of course, in their definition, in a treatment setting, whatever that treatment setting may be? Are there emotional, behavioral, cognitive conditions? So do they need a psychiatric eval? Do they need to have mental health issues assessed once substances are removed? Again, readiness for change. So here we're talking about stages of change that you're assessing. Have they relapsed before? If they've relapsed before, they have a history of relapse, this is something that we need to consider in placing them in a treatment facility? And then are they sober? Do they need an environment outside of the living arrangement that they currently have?